You found a podcast where you'll hear the truth, and we will praise Jesus' name. We stand for the Bible and won't back down from it, although it don't bring much fame. Some folks will like it, some will try to deny it, but God's word will always stand true. It's been tried in the fire.
You've just tuned into the Pod King Bible Study. I'm your host, Donnie King, and I have my co-host and dad with me, Donald King. Welcome to our 434th and final episode in our study through the book of Proverbs.
Yeah, thank you, folks, for being with us today. I tell you, I was beginning to wonder if it'd ever come or not.
What do you mean by that? Did you not think you'd ever see February the 23rd this year?
No, I was talking about the final episode of Proverbs. We've been here for quite a while.
No, brother. I thought you did really well about not complaining about how long this book study went, but now here you go and blow it on the last day.
Now, I'm not really complaining because I really enjoyed this book. I just think you could have talked through the whole Bible in the same amount of time.
Oh, now that hurts. I was pretty proud of myself because Proverbs has 33 more verses than the Gospel of John, and we completed it in about 4 months quicker than we did the Gospel of John.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we were speeding through this book after all. But I've been thinking about something. You might do better with shorter book studies.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you could take a book with 5 or 6 chapters and drag it out for 6 months. I'm quite sure.
Okay, let me process this. You're just saying that because you know what book we're fixing to start next Monday.
Well, aren't you going to tell the audience what book that is?
Absolutely I am, but not until the end. I have to make sure they stick around for this study.
All right. Well, I can't decide whether that's a cruel decision or maybe a brilliant one.
Well, I'll go with brilliant. Okay. And then I'll also go ahead and kick us off and read verse 1.
All right.
Proverbs 31:1. The words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. Now, this chapter has another person who's named as the author who wrote this. Most everybody thinks of Solomon when you think of Proverbs, and we find out that Agur wrote the last chapter, and now Lemuel has written this chapter. So the name we see is Lemuel. Everything that we know about him is pretty much extracted from this verse.
Well, some people point out that he is called a king, and this has led many people to speculate that this was just another name for King Solomon.
Yeah, and I don't know where to stand altogether on that, whether it's another name for Solomon or a name that he used at times or another man altogether. This is still one of the most beloved chapters within the whole book of Proverbs.
Well, you reckon it's because it's the last chapter?
Now, get real. Not everybody likes it for the same reason that you do. Now, Lemuel says that these proverbs were taught to him by his mother.
Now, how are we supposed to understand this statement? Because now I can see a couple of options.
Yeah, in all reality, I think there's only 2 solid positions where people land concerning this. Number 1, people believe that his mother taught him these proverbs by reciting them to him or by reading them to him.
I can see that, and I'd figure that is the most common belief.
It is. It's common among church people, but most scholars land on the second option. The second option is that his mother taught him by example, living out these very sayings before him.
Oh, wow. Now, I can see both options are very likely. Okay, verse number 2. What, my son, and what, the son of my womb, and what, the son of my vows? Lemuel's mother knew she had to have his attention to be able to teach him anything. She calls him the son of her womb, which sounds a little strange to modern ears.
Yeah, that's not normally the way that we would talk today, but some people say this proves that this wasn't just a figure of speech. Lemuel was truly born of her. He's not calling this woman that he's describing his mother. It really was his mother. She also called him the son of her vows, which causes a lot of people to speculate what this might mean.
What do you think it means?
Well, some people believe that she was speaking like Hannah did back in 1 Samuel, and that he was born after she had made a vow to God.
And once again, I think that is very feasible.
It is, but others believe that she might have vowed a Nazirite vow over him while he was a youth, but that can't be proven.
Well, if you stretch your mind a little bit, you can kind of see that. But personally, I don't really think that's what's going on.
No, I don't either. Now, I'm not going to say that Lemuel wasn't under a Nazirite vow. We don't have enough information to say that or not, but there's nothing that really points us to that other than speculation. I do know of a third view, which is a little more outside of the box, in which some people believe that wisdom is the mother figure here.
All of these things were spoken to a man by wisdom.
And that's definitely possible too.
It is. Now let's go on into the rest of the chapter and see what wisdom, or what Lemuel's mother, is saying. Verse 3 says, "Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings." Her first instruction was that he should never give his strength to women. Now this could solely speak of strange women, or even of a bossy woman.
And it could also be a warning against him allowing any woman to rule over him. And in a sense, this could be seen as a woman taking his strength or power away from him. And if a man keeps his place, his wife will be much more inclined to keep her place as well, too.
That's true. And if Solomon did happen to write this, and he is the King Lemuel, it could be an allusion back to Deuteronomy 17:17 and 1 Kings 11:1. Now, I say that lightly because I don't personally believe it is Solomon writing this under a pseudonym, but I do think that if you was going to make that argument, I would use these two verses, and let me read them to you. Deuteronomy 17:17 says, "Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold." This is a command that God gave, that the king should not do these things. 1 Kings 11:1. "But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites."
That kind of threw me for a loop there. Now, what are you saying?
Well, I say all of this because of the way the last part of this verse is worded. Watch out for women. Don't allow them to take your strength. And that which destroys kings is the main thing. The things that destroy kings is listed in the Bible. It's multiplying horses, gaining many wives, going after foreign women, much silver and gold. All of these things are condemned as things that will destroy a king. And we know that there was one king in particular that this did destroy.
All right, I got it now. So do you think Solomon might have written this then?
Well, that's a good question. And if anyone else in the audience has a good question, email them to us at dkministries1977@yahoo.com, and we will try our best to work them into one of our monthly Q&As. Now, I really don't believe it's Solomon, but once again, I think it's a good thing to talk about and to be able to debate back and forth. What do you believe? Who do you believe wrote this? The Bible tells us it's King Lemuel. That's what I have to take at face value.
Okay, verse 4. "It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink." His mother taught him that kings shouldn't drink wine, and this is probably because it would destroy his ability to judge things properly. When she told him it was not for princes to drink strong drink, this would have been the same meaning behind it.
I believe that. Because here's the thing. Being drunken means you act in terrible ways, and it could easily cause people to despise you and your rule. If you're the king and you're a drunkard, they're going to despise you, therefore they despise your rule. Now, Lemuel's mother goes on in the next verse with more about this. Let me read you verse 5. "Lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted." She clarifies what she was speaking of, because when one drinks, they forget the law. That perverts their judgment, and then in the long run, that's going to hinder those who are afflicted.
Who would want their case decided by a drunk judge? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. Well, think about this. Even Vashti, she despised the drunkenness of a king, even though the king was her husband. It cost her so much, she was no longer allowed to be queen after she stood against him, but she did what was right.
Amen. And remember, folks, drinking is what caused the whole problem.
Yes, it was.
Verse number 6, "Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts." Reckon Lemuel was given to drink? She was trying to help him back off? Or do you reckon she was trying to warn him before he ever tasted his first sip?
Those are good questions. She said to give wine to people who are ready to perish. That also can be interpreted as bitter of soul or those ready to be destroyed. You give wine to people who are mourning or who are of a heavy heart. In other words, wine isn't for everyone, nor is it for every situation. What she's saying right here is trying to make a point. Wine isn't for you, King Lemuel. You are not that type of person. Be better than that, Lemuel. Let's go into verse 7. "Let him drink." This is going back to verse 6, the one that's ready to perish. "Let him drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more." Now, before anyone jumps on the bandwagon and says, okay, well, this is giving us permission, we can go ahead and go get drunk. Lemuel's mother's not saying it's all right for a man to go out and get drunk if he meets certain qualifications. She's saying that if a man is in such a condition, he's going to do these things anyway. So let that man that's going to drink to forget his misery, let him go ahead and do it. But you're not that type of man, Lemuel. Don't you do this.
Yeah, men drink to forget their poverty and sickness, troubles, and even their misery. None of these are reasons to justify drunkenness, but this is what men do. I can nearly hear his mother say, "You're a king, Lemuel, and you don't need this." All right, verse number 8. Open thy mouth for the dumb and the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. She told him to speak up for those who have no voice to speak for themselves. This is a group of people that is easy to overlook and sidestep.
That's true, and it's because they can't do much for you, nor can they do much against you. They really have no weight of influence within society. She wanted her son to be the type of king that would speak for those type of people, especially those who would be destroyed if no one else would stand up for them. Listen to verse 9. She said, "Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy."
She wanted him to speak up, but to speak righteous judgment. In other words, be the man that will plead the cause of those who are poor and needy.
Yeah, that's the type of person I would like to be if I were ever to be put into some type of powerful position like a mayor or governor or senator, congressman, president, vice president, whatever. I would like to be the type man that I didn't go there for the money nor the power or prestige. I was doing what I was doing to help those who are really in need. Be their spokesman, Lemuel. Be their advocate. Be their surrogate. Be their intercessor. A king has power, and she desired him to use his power to do good things. Now, what better thing could a mother desire for her children? Verse number 10 says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies." It's at this point in the chapter that we see it take a shift to deal with the concept of what a virtuous woman is and what a virtuous woman does. The next 22 verses are part of a Hebrew acrostic that has been masterfully woven together. The question is asked, who can find a virtuous woman?
Even back in those days, it seems like it was rare to find such a woman. Who would you point to as being a virtuous woman in the Bible?
Well, there's several of them. There's several questionable characters in the Bible, and several of them are women, but there's several great examples. Let's look at it this way. Boaz called Ruth a virtuous woman and spoke as if the whole town knew that she was such. If you go back to Ruth chapter 3, verse 11, he says to her, "And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doeth know that thou art a virtuous woman."
A virtuous woman has value that is greater than that of rubies. She's a treasure to find. Most people take this to be all about good women or a great woman. But I wonder if there's a possibility that this is a powerful description of wisdom.
You know, in one sense, I do think it is a possibility that it's a description of wisdom. And the reason I say that is wisdom has been personified all throughout this book as a woman. That would not surprise me. Now, I'm not saying I don't think it has a thing to do with the woman in general. Wisdom has been cast against false wisdom, against worldly wisdom, against those who are simple, the fool, and much more. It's hard for me to say that this has nothing to do with actual women, but I could see how that it's possibly pointing us toward wisdom.
I'm with you on that, but you made a strong argument for this being wisdom.
Well, a little of that argument could be seen in several of the scriptures. Matter of fact, since we're already on this topic, let me grab you those verses. One of them's in Job, and the rest of them's in Proverbs. The Bible says in Job 28 and 18, "No mention shall be made of coral or of pearls, for the price of wisdom is above rubies." Proverbs 3 and 15, "She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that thou canst desire are not to be compared unto her." Now, this is talking about wisdom in Proverbs 3 and 15. Proverbs 8 and verse 11 makes it very clear. "For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not worthy to be compared to it."
My. In all three places, it's wisdom that's compared to rubies and not women. Wouldn't it be crazy to find out this was about wisdom and had little to do with women?
It would be. It really would be. And it would really change the way a lot of people looked at these verses. But once again, I wouldn't jump on that bus just yet and get ready to ride. Okay. I personally believe it may be speaking of wisdom and a description of wisdom, but it's using actual virtuous women to express these ideas.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. So, to move on a little, exactly how is virtuous defined?
You ain't going to believe this because when I looked it up, it blew my mind. Interestingly enough, the Hebrew word that's translated as virtuous that we apply to women, it's interpreted a little differently in a few places.
Oh, yeah? Well, how so?
Well, in Proverbs 31 and 3, we have the same word there. We just read that verse a little bit ago, but let me read that verse to you again and see if you can find virtuous in it. Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. Do you have an idea what virtuous is in this verse?
Strength.
In Proverbs 31:3, virtuous is strength. The word we see as strength, when you interpret it in the actual Hebrew, it's the same word that we have right here in verse 10 as virtuous. Strength is virtue. Virtue is strength. It's translated in Genesis 34:29 a little differently. Let me read you that verse, if you can find it there. And all their wealth and all their little ones and all their wives took they captive and spoiled even all that was in the house. Virtuous in the Hebrew is in this verse. What it is spoiled. When you went in and you took what the enemy had, you spoiled them. That is the exact same word for virtuous right here in Proverbs 31:10. 1 Samuel 16:18. Then answered one of the servants and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty valiant man, a man of war, and prudent in matters, a comely person, and the Lord is with him. In this verse, mighty valiant is virtuous, a description of David, a strong, mighty, valiant man, a man that's great in war. That's virtuous.
So you mean to tell me that virtuous is defined as strength to spoil someone in war and as valiant?
That's exactly right. It's the exact same Hebrew word. And you know what's totally intriguing about it? Virtuous is literally a masculine term that denotes power or strength. And it's normally interpreted as valor or valiant. But when it's ascribed to women, it's virtuous.
I know I'm beating the same drum again, but this gives credence to the idea that wisdom may be more than a natural woman.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And I'm not trying to make that argument. I'm just trying to prove the point of what virtue is and how it's defined. And like I've already said, I'm not ready to let women off the hook just yet. I do believe that it has something to do with how women act, how they respond to things, what life they live. And it's definitely what's being talked about here in Proverbs 31:10 through the remainder of the chapter. But virtue in many other places is a masculine quality, not a feminine quality. So when this comes about, this tells us that there's something about both men and women we all need. Well, what do we need more than anything throughout the whole book of Proverbs? What has Solomon told us over and over we need?
Wisdom.
We need wisdom. So to me, there's a strong argument that this is a description of wisdom, and he uses women and their virtues to describe that. All right, so even if that's what's going on here, Lemuel's mother used the traits of a good wife to describe wisdom to her son.
Good point. Let's dig into what she taught Lemuel. All right, verse 11. The heart of her husband doeth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. The husband of a virtuous woman can rest assured knowing that he can trust her. Brothers, those who are married should be able to appreciate this right here.
You ain't kidding. You don't have to worry about having your goods spoiled, which means to have the best things that you own taken from you. And in this case, that would be your wife. I mean, what greater possession does a man have than his wife? She is part of him. So if that's taken from him, he's lost the greatest asset he has in this life other than God himself. Verse 12, Lemuel's mother says she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. I believe a virtuous woman will do her husband good as long as she lives and as long as he lives. Her intentions are to make him a better man than he already was when they came together.
That's right. It's never her purpose to do him evil, but good, which is an attribute of God. All right, verse 13. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. Okay, now, does this apply to every woman still yet today?
Well, here's the thing. I personally believe that this is a general proverb. But the only other way you can see this is it's got to be a very specific trait of a virtuous woman that must have eluded our generation today. How many women do you know that's dealing with wool and flax?
Not many.
I mean, there may be some that willingly works with their hands, but they're not working in flax most of the time.
That's right.
Now, we eat some things and we put flaxseed in it. That's not what this is talking about.
No.
So how many women do you know who are looking for wool and flax to work with their hands? These were the materials of the day back then. And it's basically saying that her hands are always busy. We don't need to get bogged down with some of the details. We need to see the overall picture right here.
So what do you think the main point is in this verse we should understand?
I believe it's saying that virtuous women are not lazy women. They always have something that they're doing. Let's go into verse 14, and I believe this kind of proves my point. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar.
In what ways is a virtuous woman like a merchant ship?
Well, he actually told us. It's because she brings her food from afar.
Virtuous women bring their food from afar off like a merchant ship. So what am I missing here?
Think of it this way. This is kind of left open to interpretation because there may be some missing meaning that we don't fully have that Lemuel's mother meant. But it could be meaning that she tries recipes from all of the known world, and she's using ingredients from different areas and different lands. I mean, sometimes we use Mexican oregano. Sometimes we use spices that are from Italy. So we use things that come from afar, and this could be meaning that. But once again, this analogy could point to wisdom as the woman here, and this could be throwing us back to Proverbs 9 and 5, where wisdom said, "Come eat of my bread and drink of the wine which I have mingled."
All right, verse 15. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. A virtuous woman will get up and fix food while it's still dark, and then she'll even provide enough for her maidens. So the obvious question would be, is this a requirement to be a virtuous woman?
Okay, ladies, you're going to love this. You got to get up about 3:30 every morning, no matter what goes on in your house, and you fix food for your whole family and then for your servants. And if you don't have servants, you're going to have to get some so you can fix for them, right? All right, once again, this doesn't mean that every woman is expected to get up before dark and fix breakfast, but I do believe it is speaking of her willingness to do what's needed. If your husband comes in from work around noon and you have no children at home, you don't own servants, why would you get up and fix a meal in the middle of the night? This is basically pointing us to this woman is willing to do what's necessary. In that day, they had to fix the meal while it was dark because as soon as it got daylight, their work began. As soon as it got dark that night, their work had to stop. They had no electricity to sit around, flip on the light, and stay up to midnight. When it got dark, pretty soon they're in bed. So this is just stating the obvious. She's in there before it's fully yet daylight, fixing for her family and for whoever's a part of her house.
You're saying this is conditional, and it's another general proverb, right?
Absolutely. I don't believe this is saying every virtuous woman gets up at 4:15 every morning and fixes food for her household. I do believe that if you got a husband that leaves early and you want to fix him breakfast, those women who are virtuous are willing to do that. She's willing to get up and pack those lunches for those children before they head out the door. I believe that fully. It's not a demand. It's not a requirement. It's just saying this is the type woman this is. She meets every need and she does everything that needs to be done. Verse 16 says, "She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard." Now she ponders a plot of ground and then she purchases it. That sounds great, doesn't it? But what if you don't have the money to afford it?
Yeah.
How would you like it while you're at work, your wife becomes a land baron? I mean, how's that going to go over?
I doubt any guy would like for his wife to purchase 10 acres while he's at work.
Yeah.
I think it's a saying that she makes wise decisions and purchases things that will pay off, basically making good investments.
That's exactly what I see going on here. I don't think this is saying that every good, godly, virtuous woman goes out and buys 100 acres of land, whether her husband knows it or not. I believe what it's saying is she makes use of everything that she has, and if there's something that would be a gain to her and her home, she seeks after that. By the very labor of her hands, she plants a vineyard. By the very labor of her hands, she's doing what she does. She's planning ahead. Now, some people believe, and I think they may be onto something here, this means that she bought a field with the money she made from the vineyard she planted and worked. So she took and she planted a vineyard that she had on the properties they already owned. And then with the money that come in from what she sold off of it, she purchased the other land. She worked in the vineyard, sold the produce until she could afford to buy the field.
If that's the case, then the husband might not mind if she bought 10 acres.
Yeah, I could go with that.
All right, verse 17. She girdeth her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms. Does this mean a virtuous woman works out every day, toning her arm muscles?
Yep. I mean, she's a bodybuilder. Her physique is just unreal. She's got 19-inch biceps. No, this is a Hebrew idiom where it says that she strengtheneth her arms. It's a Hebrew idiom that means that she dresses herself with strength. She gets up and she puts forth strength every day to do what she's got to do. It can mean that she's preparing for battle.
And it probably infers that she's getting ready to face whatever the day might bring her.
Absolutely.
She strengthens her arms might mean that she exercises her abilities.
I like that.
She daily gets herself ready for the things that must be done.
Well, I think most every woman that's got a family does that same thing. As soon as she crawls out of bed and she realizes, oh, it's time to get up, she knows immediately, I've got to get this going. I got to get this started. I got to get these on the way. I got to do this. I mean, her mind's constantly rolling. She's ready to go. I believe inherent in this statement is the fact that the right arm symbolizes the arm of power. Mm-hmm. This might be saying that she's a powerful woman in a spiritual sense, if you look at it in a spiritual mindset. Verse 18 says, she perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. Now, I don't believe this means that she stays up all night and that she never lets a candle go out. And so, ladies, if you got a candle burning, don't ever put it out, because if you do, you're not a virtuous woman. You can make this so literal, it makes no sense at all. She can easily see that her merchandise is good because, why? She's doing everything she does with excellence. She doesn't do shoddy work. She does what she does for the glory of God. When it says her candle doesn't go out by night, it means that she truly never ceases from her labors.
We know this can't mean that a virtuous woman never sleeps. It implies that she works nonstop around the clock. It's probably another reference to show us that she is not a lazy woman.
Yeah, well, think about this. That old saying, a mother's work is never done, or a woman's work is never done. Yeah. It may be alluding to this right here.
Well, she's not laying around on the couch and munching all day as the dishes pile up.
Preach now.
All right, verse 19. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. All of this speech about spindling and distaff is about sewing and weaving. Does this imply that virtuous women know how to sew for themselves?
Well, I don't think that's the main idea. I do think it's a shame if a woman's 30 years old and she doesn't know how to sew a button on a shirt. But this isn't a requirement that if a woman doesn't know how to sit down and sew curtains and make bed linens and make their own homemade dresses and all of that. I don't believe that this is saying that she's got to make everything her own self. She's got the knowledge. She's got the wisdom. She's willing to do what's necessary. I believe this is describing a very creative and industrious woman, and it seems that there's little that she can't do. This is what this is describing, a woman that's ready for whatever comes against her. Whatever comes up, she's got something ready for it. Verse 20 says, she stretcheth out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. Not only does she care for those within her own home, but she reaches outside the home and helps the poor and needy. Now, this might be saying that she feeds others. It might be meaning that she sews for them. She may help them in other ways with other things and so on.
If she sees someone in need, her heart goes out to them. Then she helps them. All right, verse 21. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. The virtuous woman is not afraid of the snow when it comes to providing and preparing for her household. Now, does that mean a virtuous woman is required to get out in the snow? Is it required that all her household is clothed with scarlet? If so, why would that be?
I think you put your finger on the problem area right here when we try to take Scripture too literally. Does it literally mean that you got to live in an area where you get a lot of snow? Do you need to make sure that every one of your family members is wearing the color scarlet every day? No, that's taking it too literal. It doesn't literally mean that everyone in her house wears reddish-colored garments. It's saying that she clothes her family like royalty. She treats them as if they are part of the king's family. We see a reference to this back in 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel 1:24, ye daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet with other delights, who put on ornaments of gold upon your apparel. It's describing a wealthy situation. In other words, it's describing this woman, no matter what the weather, no matter what the time, no matter when it happens, she's going to make sure that her family has the best that they could have.
So it was kind of a saying back in Bible times for expensive clothing. Verse 22, she maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Judging by what we just learned, what it says that she makes her own clothing of various kinds of tapestry and silk and purple, this once again represents royalty.
Yeah, and this might be said to characterize this type of woman as a daughter of the king. I mean, it may be describing a virtuous woman as if she's royalty. She has the dignity and excellence of one who was born to a king despite being of humble origins. Okay, you could be a pauper, but you can act like royalty. All right, verse 23, her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. The husband of the virtuous woman is a man that's known in the gates of his city, meaning that he's a man of position. He's a man that holds some type of influence.
Lemuel says this as if a woman is part of the reason he had his position. He sits among the elders of the land, implying he is a judge of the people.
Yeah.
Verse 24, she maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. She makes fine linen and sells it at the marketplace, and she delivers sashes to the local merchants for them to sell.
Yeah, and once again, if we take this literally, then every woman that's going to be called virtuous has got to know how to make a girdle, and you got to be able to sell them. You make them fine linen. I mean, you're putting all of it together. You're weaving it. You got it, and you put it together. You're not going to Hobby Lobby buying material. You're making the linen, selling it to Hobby Lobby. I mean, boy, we got it backwards today, ain't we?
Yeah.
That's not what this is saying. Once again, it's one thing for a person to make something that they can use around their own house. It might not be the finest, but it gets a person by. But this right here is telling us altogether about a different thing. A virtuous woman does stuff with high enough quality. She could sell it to merchants, and they could sell it to other customers. In other words, this woman does stuff at very high quality. She cares about what stuff looks like. She cares about how it works. She doesn't want something that's going to last one day when she could have it last 5 years. Verse 25 says, strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. That's a definite guarantee here. She's clothed with strength and honor. She has nothing to be ashamed of. This is the type woman that every person could admire.
This speaks of her character again, not so much actual clothing she wears.
No.
She rejoices into her old age, for she can be proud of all she's accomplished. She can rest satisfied knowing she has done her part in life.
Amen. Well, think about it. She did her part to raise her children. She's doing her part to be a blessing to her grandchildren, and is doing her part to be a help to others who are poor and needy. This type of woman is a type of woman that cares less about herself and more about others.
Verse 26, she openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. When she opens her mouth, wisdom flows forth from her. Boy, that would severely limit how many virtuous women are out there today.
You ain't kidding. The Bible says she has the law of kindness within her tongue. Now, if you meet somebody that is willing to tell everybody off that they come in contact with, you may have just found one woman that doesn't have one of the elements of being a virtuous woman.
That's right.
She knows how to be a comfort to people. She knows how to show hospitality. She knows how to express love. There's many ways to understand what that means about kindness being in your tongue. Verse 27 says, she looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. In other words, she looks after her family as well as anyone could ever do so. She never takes the time to eat the bread of idleness. She stays busy without being a busybody.
Well, it was probably said of a virtuous woman. The woman's work's never done. That couldn't have been said of a lazy woman. All right, verse 28. Her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. She is such a wonderful person that her children stand up for her and bless her. To have your children declare that she is a blessing to them is amazing.
It is, because if you're not careful, your children can be your downfall. But this type of woman, her children, they also bless her like everybody else that knows her. And the Bible tells us that the husband also recognizes the prize of a woman that he has. This is why he will praise her for all of her good deeds. Everyone who is around this woman is made better just by association. Verse 29 says, many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. There are many women who have done virtuous things, but this type of woman excels all of the others. This is probably because she has virtue at all times. Rather than just doing a few things well, she did her best at everything she tried to do.
It appears that she made it her goal to succeed in everything she put her hands to do. And she did it with all her might.
Yeah.
Even us men could stand to learn some things from this godly example of a woman. All right, verse 30. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Don't judge a woman by how she's favored or by her beauty. The most important way to judge anyone is by whether or not they fear the Lord.
That's exactly right.
The woman who fears the Lord will be an honest woman, a good mother, and a good wife.
True, for a woman who doesn't fear the Lord will be just the opposite. A virtuous woman is worthy of the praise that comes to her, though she'll probably deflect it and remain modest and humble and say, hey, no, and she'll try to push it aside. A virtuous woman is not going to want to be praised because she has no pride. She has done what she did because she felt it was necessary to raise her children, to make her husband a better man, and to please God. Verse 31 says, Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So in other words, give this woman credit for what she's done, especially what she does with her own hands, what she has made happen. The works that she's done will be plenty enough that you can praise her in the gates.
She's such a woman, she's qualified enough to stand in the gate for the elders. In other words, she's worthy to stand among those who have wisdom. If you know a woman like this, or especially if you have a woman like this in your life, thank God for her and give honor to whom it's due.
That's right. I believe that every one of us, if you know a woman like that, it would be a shame and disgrace if we didn't give them honor. For the Bible tells us to give honor to whom honor is due. And if you know a woman that has met some of these qualifications or all of these qualifications, they deserve to be thanked and praised for what they've done. Believe it or not, we have officially finished the book of Proverbs now. Can you believe it?
Okay, so what's up next?
Well, I tell you what's up next. We invite all of our listeners to come back next Monday for our 435th episode, where we'll begin a new book study, and this time we're going to be in 1 Timothy.
For me, this I know, really changed my heart all around. Put my feet back on the ground, got along. Now for heaven I want to go. I want to go. I want to go to that land where the milk and honey flow. Oh, I've heard of such a place. I can't go there by God's grace. Never seen it, but I know I want to go.